Hey, church, so glad you're with us today. Want to welcome all of our locations and those with us online. My name is Joey, have the honor of being the lead pastor right here at the Block Church. And we are in a series called It's Not Too Late for Your Miracle. We're studying the book of Joshua, and we're ending 2025 the same way we started it, believing God for more miracles. And that's what we're believing for in your life and in our church as we close out this year. And today, man, you are in for a treat. I have a special guest with us all the way from the Holy Land Studies in Israel via Springfield, Missouri. Can you help me welcome Jeremy Stein? So glad you're with us.
Glad to be with you. This is exciting.
This is an honor. Okay. I love this guy. Jeremy, he was our guide in Israel when Pastor Julio and I got to go, and it was literally life-changing. Jeremy, tell us what you do, who you are, what your credentials are.
So I'm the director of the Center for Holy Land Studies, which is a ministry out of the National Office of the Assemblies of God, which focuses on connecting people to the lands and the world of the Bible. We do Israel, Turkey, Greece, Italy, Egypt, Jordan, Cyprus, Malta, anywhere where the Bible takes place, where we have narratives of the Bible taking place. We want to go to better understand the realities of the biblical world, because when we look at that, we understand not only what was meant for the original audiences and the situations that they're in when they're receiving these writings, but then we're also able to better understand what it means for us today and our calling and our ministry. And
Right.
So I get the opportunity to take pastors, church leaders, people, anybody inside a church, students to the world of the Bible. And we do so looking through multiple different lenses. We look at the culture, the history, the landscape, or the geography and the spirituality of the ancient world, and provide that on top of the different landscapes to create a better understanding of the narrative of the Bible as a whole, to instill a love and a desire to be more engaged with God's word, to increase biblical literacy. And so it's a great opportunity for the church as a whole, and I love getting to be a part of it. I get to do it really a lot of times through the aspect of archaeology. That's my training, my background.
Yeah, you're an archaeologist.
I am.
And a theologian.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Your brain just works better than the normal person.
I kind of wanted to be like Indiana Jones, because, he knows his Bible and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he's this archaeologist. And I learned really quickly, I don't get to carry a gun on site.
No whip.
I don't get to punch Nazis. Like, it was all a lie. And so, but I do get to teach. And so that's really, really fun.
So, okay, quick story on Jeremy.
I know where you're going with this.
Okay, so this was our first impression of him.
Oh, good.
Okay, we're with a bunch of pastors, and we're expecting some sort of astute, older gentleman who's going to walk us through every site. And we arrive, Jeremy greets us. First of all, we're shocked because you're 33, 34, right? And you've been to Israel 3,000 times at this point. And it's like, dude, how are you a theologian, archaeologist, this young, and former pastor, or if you're pastor, but you pastored before. So Jeremy shows up, right? He's got his these, what are these jeans here?
These are my acid wash jeans.
Acid wash jeans. Okay. He has these purple sunnies. Okay. These skin tight, skinnies, acid wash skinnies. He's got these $2 purple sunnies from, Walmart or something. And then he's got a Monster in his hand. Okay. He's got a Monster or a Red Bull in his back pocket. And so we're standing in like a 4th century synagogue. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it almost looks like you just rolled out of bed and you're about to light up a Newport, Okay. And so we're looking around like, who is this guy? And like, we're like, initially disappointed, like, man,
that's what I've been told.
What a bum. And so but then Jeremy starts reading his Bible, but he's reading it in the Greek, and at times reading it in the Hebrew, because you're fluent in Hebrew and Greek.
Yeah.
But he's reading it in the Greek, but to us in English. And so this man starts blowing our mind day after day. arriving to us and some of the most gorgeous, remarkable, incredible historical biblical sites in his acid wash skinnies, his purple sunnies, his 2 Red Bulls, and I'm convinced a cigarette in his back.
No.
Maybe if you're in Bible college.
When I was in Bible college, yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, he didn't smoke. But all that to say, Jeremy really blew our minds, and we had this thing that kept happening. Okay, we'd arrive at a site, and he would say this. He would say, now, this is going to be a tough teaching for you. And he would ruin all of our previous knowledge of the Bible. And all of us as preachers were repenting, going, we didn't teach this the right way.
Oh, no.
But today, we're going to teach Joshua chapter 10 the right way.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's going to help walk us through this. And last week, we covered Joshua 9.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you give us a little bit of a recap on Joshua 9? And then let's head into Joshua 10. And this message, by the way, I'll theme it here. Okay? This message today is about the sun standing still.
Yeah.
Very popular passage, a big miracle. And we're going to title today's talk, Do For Me. Do for me. You've heard that before.
Yeah.
Lord, it's a prayer.
Yeah.
Lord, do for me like you did for them.
Amen.
Is there a historical precedent for that prayer?
There absolutely is. And it's something that we don't deal with oftentimes as, let's say, the Protestant church. But this is a cry and really an identifier of the Orthodox church. When we talk about the Orthodox church, we kind of almost shy away from it because of a misunderstanding of orthodoxy. And really what happens is that when the church is legalized, you have the center of the church being inside Constantinople and the birth of the Orthodox church there. And then eventually in 1054, you have what's called the Great Schism, where the Catholic Church breaks off and they have 2 different identities. And we kind of inside our mind merge them together. But the Greek Orthodox Church has something called icons.
Okay.
And what they do is they have the icons of all the different saints. And because of how Catholicism oftentimes approaches the saints, we don't look at how the Orthodox approach the saints, but it's 2 different ways. Catholicism, they usually pray to the saints to intervene for them on their behalf to God. You're praying to the saint to do X, Y, and Z for you. But in Greek Orthodoxy, you're praying inside the memory or the spirit of that saint, not expecting that you're praying to that saint is going to intervene, but you're praying to God in the spirit of the saint of saying, God, you did this mighty, amazing thing through this individual. Do the same thing for me. God, you healed this person from an incurable disease. And that's why we call them a saint, because their faith, their faith and what they did in their lifetime. Do that same thing with me. Let your spirit be the same. And so this has been really a cry of the heart of the church as a whole. If we're really being birthed eventually out of the Orthodox church, or can transcribe our lineage all the way back to that in the legalization of Christianity starting in 313 AD, you have that idea that is an identifier of the church of, God, do this for me as well. You've been a promise-keeping God. You always will be a promise-keeping God. And so I know your promises are still here to this day. And so I'm calling on that to be answered now.
I love that. So it would be fair to say, to be clear, hey, we don't pray to saints.
Correct.
We don't think that's what we need to do. We're going right to Jesus. But what you're saying and where this comes from, do for me.
Yes.
It comes from a root of, no, I'm praying to God, but in the same spirit, in the same belief, like, hey, you did it for these saints of past, these clouds of those in the clouds of witnesses, if you will. That is a healthy prayer to pray.
Absolutely.
Without idolizing the blessing.
And we do that too, not necessarily with saints, but we don't necessarily think of it, but we do it with biblical characters as well.
Yeah.
God, give me the faith of Moses.
Right.
Give me the strength of Joshua. Give me the faith of Zacchaeus or Rahab or any of these individuals. We pray in their memory that we use their examples to be transposed into our lives, asking for that same level of faith, that same level of healing and things of that nature. How many times have we heard, for example, blind Bartimaeus, who comes out as Jesus is leaving Jericho, son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus heals him because of his faith. Or the centurion that Jesus says, nobody has faith like this man. And then we say, God, give me that same faith. Do the same thing for me as you did for them.
For me.
It's something that is instilled in us, and why we have such a fascination with those who have come before us, and why it's important to understand and study these individuals in faith who have come before us.
Yeah, it's great. Love that. Okay. We could go on forever.
We
have a text to get to.
Yes, we do.
Recap Joshua 9 that was preached last week.
Yeah.
Just set the scene.
Yeah, so you have the Gibeonites, who are Canaanite people inside the land of Canaan. When Israel's coming in and conquesting the land, as is commanded of them by God, to go in and to conquer the land and to remove all of the pagan peoples inside the land so that it doesn't affect Israel when they are establishing themselves. And the Gibeonites hear about everything that's going on with the Israelites, and they make a plan. Basically, they go to them and they make them look, they look disheveled. They intentionally deceive the Israelites to think that they're a weak and destitute people group, to make a covenant with them that Israel won't destroy them and will protect them inside the land. And then it's revealed to them that the Gibeonite situation is not the way that it seems, but they've already made a covenant with them. And once they make a covenant, they and the Lord are going to honor that. And that's where we get into this situation here, as we're about to read, is that now news of this covenant and news of this protection pact is going out to all of the other kingdoms inside the area who were the protectors of these individuals. They were the overseers, and there was a relationship that now these people are basically traitors to them.
Who were the Gibeonites in their heritage, if you will? Were they Greek? Were they?
No, they're Canaanites, which means that they're Mesopotamian.
Okay.
Probably they're coming from early Babylon, maybe. We're going to read about, for example, the Amorites. And the Amorites are not necessarily an easy people to nail down, because at this point in time, you're having people with distinct lineages that are going back to many of the same places.
Okay.
And it's really tribal identity or city-state identity at this time, where you have these different Amorite kings that we'll read about, and probably the Gibeonites are under their protection or part of them. And so distant cousins and things like that, that there is a background that's somewhere in Mesopotamia. And this isn't unique just to them. We actually see this with the Israelites as well, because the Israelites and their later enemies are all interrelated. They're all tribes and clans of the same descendancy. You take Israel and their enemies of the Edomites, the Moabites, and the Ammonites, all of them are from Abrahamic lineage. The Edomites are the descendants of Esau. You have the Ammonites and the Moabites are the descendants of Lot. Then you also have down in the south, you have the Ishmaelites, who are descendants of Ishmael, who is Abraham's other son,
right,
with Hagar. And so all of these arguments,
which is the root of Islam.
Exactly it. Yeah. Down in the Arabian Peninsula.
Right.
And even there's relationships with them and the Midianites, for example. We see it sometimes being used interchangeably. For example, inside the story of Joseph, they're called both the Ishmaelites and the Midianites. You have this reality that all these people are intermarrying one another. Moses, as an Israelite, marries into a Midianite family. His father-in-law is a Midianite high priest, Jethro. And so it's all these families that are interconnected inside this land that have their own distinct identity, but also have blood that they share. And that blood that they share is something that it's strong. When Moses and the Israelites, for example, try to pass through Edom, they assume that the Edomites are going to let them do so, and they're denied. Then fast forward 700 years or so later, in 586, the Israelites, when they're attacked by the Babylonians, where do they choose to flee to? A large number of them flee to the Edomites. Why? Because they share blood. And the Babylonians are foreigners, so they assume that the Edomites are going to take them in, because as much of the fighting that they've had over the course of the Old Testament, they're still related by blood. And we might hate each other, but these are outsiders, and so we're supposed to get along for that purpose. And what do the Edomites do is that they take them and then they sell them to slavery to the Babylonians. And that's the whole purpose of the book of Obadiah. It's chastising the Edomites, because the Lord is saying, you're their family. Wow. You are descendants of Abraham. And so you've turned on your family and your bloodline. How dare you? My retribution is going to come upon you as a result. And so seeing all that, that's probably what's taking place very similar here, is that even though the Gibeonites are a distinct people group, they're probably sharing this bloodline with the rest of the Amorites that we're going to read about.
It's just that at this point, we're now in the promised land.
Correct.
Fighting to possess it.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And the Gibeonites have territory.
Yes.
Right. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Joshua 10, verse 1. Adonizedek.
Mhm.
Say that right?
Yep. That's good.
Okay. I'm fluent in some Hebrew, apparently.
When it's transposed to English.
When it's transposed. King of Jerusalem. So, okay, King of Jerusalem. Jerusalem isn't God's at this point. Right.
No.
Okay. Heard that Joshua had captured and completely destroyed. Now, how do we say AI?
IE is usually how you'll hear it sound. Yeah.
IE, okay, and killed its king, just as he had destroyed the town of Jericho and killed its king. He also learned that the Gibeonites had made peace with Israel and were now their allies.
Mhm.
From Joshua 9.
Mhm.
Verse 2, he and his people became very afraid. This is Adonai's people,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
When they heard all this, because Gibeon was a large town, as large as the world cities and larger town in IE.
Mhm.
And the Gibeonite men were strong warriors. Let's talk about this. Verse 1 and 2. Go.
Yeah. So you've got this situation that there is a fear that is now being instilled inside the other city states in the region. And Jerusalem is a powerful one because of its location. It's sitting on some of the trade routes here, and Gibeon is sitting on one of the trade routes as well. And so by them making peace with the Israelites, you're now cutting off access to part of your economy. But also, if they're strong warriors, you've got to get a stronger army to be able to conquer them. And so it seems that Jerusalem, under Adonizedek's leadership, is not going to be able to conquer them. And so he needs to now figure out a way to upset this power so that now they don't get picked off one by one, which is what's happening. Jericho gets picked off because it's by itself, and it's kind of geographically isolated, and it's in a very important trade route right there. And so now they've lost access to that. Then you lose IE, which is a smaller city, not a big city, which puts up actually a really good fight against the Israelites, as we read about. You have a defeat that is first dealt to the Israelites. And so you have this reality of he's watching these other cities getting picked off. And now one of the cities that probably would have been looked at as one of the main ones that could stand against them and defend against this onslaught of Israelite inside the land is no longer a player in the game. And so he's fearful.
Okay. So that's the scene here.
Yes.
It's we've crossed the Jordan from the wilderness. We've defeated Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
We're now trying to possess the land.
Mm-hmm.
We're winning some battles.
Mm-hmm.
We've made covenant now with the Gibeonites,
Mm-hmm.
so they're going to protect them. And other kings, particularly this king of Jerusalem,
Yeah.
he's fearful because, man, I don't want to lose. We're losing ground.
Yes.
At this point, the Israelites have momentum.
They do. Absolutely.
If this was a football game, maybe let's say the Eagles versus the Giants, which you're from New York and you're a Giants fan.
Yeah.
And when you showed up at my house, you showed up in a Giants jersey, by the way.
I did.
Which was incredibly rude. And I didn't want to feed you, but I did anyway.
I know.
The mercy of God.
Listen.
I digress. The momentum would be, hey, the Eagles are about to go up 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of momentum they feel.
Yes. And going into it with they've been unstoppable for the last few years.
Right.
Because remember, when Israel's coming into the land, everything that has happened over the course of the last 40 years is known to the people.
Yeah.
Think back to why Rahab decides that she wants to be a follower of Yahweh and help the children of Israel when they come into Jericho. It's because they've heard about everything that the Lord has done for Israel over the past few decades. And so there's more than just momentum in battle. There's momentum of saying, wait a second, these people defied the big dogs on the block, Egypt, and they've made it through the wilderness in a place that they never should have made it through because their God has favor on them. And now they're here inside our backyard. What do we do now?
Here we go, verse 4.
Let's do it.
Okay, come and help me destroy Gibeon, he urged them.
Yes.
For they have made peace with Joshua. Who's he talking to?
He's talking to other Amorite kings.
Okay. For they have made peace with Joshua and the people of Israel. So these 5 Amorite kings combined their armies for a united attack. They moved all their troops into place and attacked Gibeon. The men of Gibeon quickly sent messengers to Joshua at his camp in Gilgal. Don't abandon your servants now, they pleaded. This is the Gibeonites talking to Joshua. Mm-hmm. Come at once, save us, help us, for all the Amorite kings who live in the hill country have joined forces to attack us. Mm-hmm. So Joshua, verse 7, sent his entire army, including his best warriors, left Gilgal, sent out for Gibeon. Do not be afraid of them, the Lord said to Joshua, for I have given you victory over them. Not a single one of them will be able to stand up to you. Come on, somebody. Joshua traveled all night from Gilgal and took the Amorite armies by surprise. The Lord threw them into a panic, and the Israelites slaughtered great numbers of them at Gibeon. The Israelites chased the enemy along the road to Beth Horon, killing them all along the way to Azekah.
Yep. Azekah. You've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
And Makkedah.
Yep.
Okay. As the Amorites retreated down the road from Beth Horon, the Lord destroyed them with a terrible hailstorm from heaven that continued until they reached Azekah. The hail killed more of the enemy than the Israelites killed with the sword. On the day the Lord gave the Israelites victory over the Amorites, Joshua prayed to the Lord in front of all the people of Israel. He said, let the sun stand still over Gibeon and the moon over the valley of Ayalon.
Yep.
Am I saying that right?
You are. Yes. You dropped the J. That's the way to say it. Ayalon Valley.
Okay. What's happening?
Okay.
All right.
Let's break this down and let's focus on a few key parts of this,
because the sun stands still moment that Joshua prayed. This is the big miracle.
That's what everybody focuses on.
Okay.
You've got books about it. You've probably heard others preaching about it, but it leaves out a major part of his prayer. And I want to focus on too, the fact that this isn't just a quiet prayer that he's muttering under his breath. It says he does it in the sight of everybody. Think about the faith that he's commanding, is that he is literally praying to the Lord and he's saying, God, defy nature, defy your creation for this moment.
Control it.
Exactly. There's a natural order that you have set in motion since the dawn of time, but we need this victory because we've promised these people in your name that we were going to be their defenders, that we were going to be your rescuers. So we need to make do on this for the glory of your name. So you assist us, give us this win. And we focus on the sun standing still, but it says that the sun and the moon, that's what he asks for.
In verse 13.
Exactly.
We'll get there.
Let the sun stand still and let the moon stand still. And so he's asking for something very specific. And when we get into it, we'll see where he actually asks for the placement to be. And so he's in the area of Gilgal, and he's coming from the east to rescue the Gibeonites. And they're going through the Ayalon Valley under the cover of darkness to get there. And so it is a full day's walk from Gilgal to Gibeon. It's not like a quick 2-hour walker. It's a full walk at great speed. You're moving a whole army and going to take some time to get there. And so,
well, this makes me think of something.
Yeah.
Okay. Joshua is asking the Lord to control nature.
Yes.
They've already had the hailstorm. So he's going, hey, make the sun stand still.
Yeah.
Right. It reminds me that, like, hey, this goes back to Joshua understanding God is the creator of the universe. He's in control of all of it. And then it makes me think about Jesus in the New Testament.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, Jesus, who is
this man? They literally say that after he calls creation to heal. Most people don't realize this because, as you said, they're not reading inside the Greek. And when we were on the Sea of Galilee, for example, I read the Greek of the storm, the calming of the storm, and we broke down the Greek. And the storm that's being used there is in Greek a seismos, which is where we get the word seismic activity. And what the gospel writers are telling us is that this is an earthquake that is taking place, which makes sense because there's a fault line that runs through the Sea of Galilee, runs all the way down the Jordan River into the Dead Sea. That's why the Dead Sea is so salty, because you have the saline drip coming up through that fault line. And what ends up happening is that the tectonic plates are literally moving in great force. And these are career fishermen who are terrified that they're about to die. And Jesus gets up and he says, be still, and everything stops, which means the tectonic plates have stopped moving. According to how the gospel writers are telling us.
Like Jesus doing that is the ultimate reflection of, I am God.
Yes. Yes.
Because if God can make the sun stand still, I can make the tectonic plates. Tectonic. Yeah, sorry. Didn't memorize that. The tectonic plates stop.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to the text. Okay. So we've got all these kings, and Joshua recognizes as they arrive, why does he need the sun to stand still?
That's a great question. And he needs it to not rise. And we don't necessarily realize this. This is what a lot of scholars have come to the conclusion, because there's something about the geography that is being included. Notice how you're including all these name places.
Yeah.
And the biblical authors do that intentionally, because one of the things that we don't realize, because we're not connected with the land, is that there are aspects of the story that are directly connected with the surrounding that's taking place. And the ancient recipients, or the ancient audience of the Bible, is understanding their world. They know these places intimately. And we are the recipients of the Bible, but we're not the intended audience of the Bible, which means that when the book of Joshua is being written, it's not being written thinking that we're going to be reading it in 2000 AD, after almost 3,500 years after it's taking place. And it's thinking that its audience inside the day and age is going to read it.
So if you're writing the Bible today, you're saying, hey, from New Jersey, from Cherry Hill, New Jersey to Center City, Philadelphia.
Exactly. And anybody who's familiar with that understands it. And take it even one step further, if we're talking about the distance between states and what states are in between. If I talk about, they moved an army from Northern California to Washington, you realize that it has to move through Oregon in order to do that, because that's part of our world.
Right.
And so by including these things, they understand the geographical connotations of them. They know where Gilgal is. They know where Gibeah is, and they know the Ayalon Valley. And so what Joshua prays is very interesting. He says, let the sun stand still over Gibeon, and let the moon stand still over the Ayalon Valley. And they move through the Ayalon Valley in order to get to Gibeon. And when you're seeing that, he's saying, okay, he wants the moon on top of him and the sun on top of the Gibeonites. Now, Gibeon is to the west, and the Ayalon Valley is to the east. Gilgal is to the east. And when we talk about where the sun is moving across the sky, it goes what? It goes east to west. And so the sun is already in the west. And we're thinking of it not inside our mindset of knowing that everything is going around and how the earth is rotating, but you have to think of it inside an ancient Near Eastern mindset, that essentially the sun is going to come, when it goes into the west, it basically resets over on this side. He's talking about the horizons, and he wants the sun to stop when it's on the western side of this plane. And he wants the moon to stop when it's on the eastern side of this plane. Essentially, he wants more nighttime. He wants darkness.
Why?
Because he's moving under the cover of darkness, and it tells us that he is. And so when he gets there, not only is he able to surprise the enemies, but also as he gets there, the sun would be where? If it's now moving, if the sun is now moving as they've got there, it is now coming up inside the east, and it is in the eyes of the defenders, or of the enemies that are being attacked by the Israelites. And so they're at a great disadvantage. Most of the time,
it's like trying to hit a baseball with the sun in your eye.
Exactly it. When you look at how battles were formed, or battle lines were formed inside the ancient world, most of the times the desire was in a north-south axis, because this way the sun is not a factor inside your eyes. But here you're moving inside this way. Exactly it. He's forcing the battle to take place with the sun behind the Israelites and in the eyes of the Gibeon, or of the attackers of the Gibeonites, in order to give them a massive disadvantage.
So Joshua's like, God, I need more night. I need the sun essentially to be in the eyes of the enemy, so that not only are they surprised, but they can't even recognize or see or accurately fight back.
Yes.
Which is going to cause them to potentially fight each other on accident. And so forth.
It creates mass hysteria, mass confusion.
Because you've got thousands and thousands of men just on attack, and probably wearing similar clothing, and nobody can tell who's who. And how do the Israelites keep from killing each other? They're coordinated.
Coordination, it's understanding your people's armor, because keep in mind, these Gibeonites, or sorry, the Amorites who are attacking the Gibeonites, they've been established inside this land. Joshua's people have gone through the wilderness for the last 40 years, and although they have a standing army, it's not an army the way that we think of inside the ancient Near East.
It's the ragtag revolutionary army trying to beat the British.
Exactly. And so you're dealing with one that is probably very uniformed, and one that is kind of a chaotic mess in many ways.
This is so fascinating. So the story is Joshua asking the sun to stand still. He's really asking for more nighttime.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it gets passed over because the sun stands still. Yeah, but also the moon stands still. And that should be telling us quite a bit about the narrative right there.
I think also what is worth recognizing is Joshua, as you mentioned, praying this in front of everyone. The kind of faith and guts to where it's like, I'm going to ask the Lord to do something for us that maybe has never been done. You want to speak to that?
I mean, you've got this reality of just, I mean, somebody has said this audacious faith that comes with this, of just asking God for something that is unheard of and God answering it. And you think back to the statement that Rahab makes earlier, is that we've heard the things that your God has done. And imagine in the ranks of the Amorites, you wake up in what you'd think is the morning and it's still dark out. And what's going on? And then when the sun finally does rise after 12 hours of standing still, of not rising, and you have this army that comes, think about it from a superstitious ancient Near Eastern mindset of these guys have powerful gods behind them. Who is this God Yahweh that they're proclaiming inside this land that we haven't heard of? And so it is terrifying.
When God does miracles in your life, people around you will go, who is Yahweh?
Yes, 100%. We see it all throughout history. I mean, what is the purpose really of the power of the Holy Spirit inside the church? It's not for us to beat our chests and say, look what I can do. Look at the faith that I have. But it's so that the world can see, and they can see in a point that they're not just amazed, but in some ways terrified and shaken to their core. Think back to in the New Testament when the Holy Spirit falls upon the church in Ephesus. It makes the statement that it said, the Holy Spirit through the power of Paul did extraordinary or unusual
They were
things.
ordinary men who did extraordinary
yes.
things.
But let's think about the ministry of Paul already up until that point, because this is on his third missionary journey in Acts 19. And Paul, in the areas of Lystra and Derbe, he's stoned and gets back up after being stoned dead and walks back into the city. Demons are being cast out. People are being healed.
Shadows are healing people.
Exactly. And now you have the reality of basically the author of Acts, Luke, is saying, yeah, but those are the ordinary miracles.
Jesus.
Now let's think about what's taking place inside these 3.5 years that Paul is there, that we're being told extraordinary or unusual miracles, more unusual than what we've seen already, is taking place. And it shakes the city to the core, that people go out in a single day and they burn somewhere in the theme of, let's say, $12.5 million worth of pagan implements, because they're so shaken that they don't ever want to go back to that, because now they've experienced the true power of God. That's just being transplanted onto the world of the Old Testament as well, that they're seeing the power of God alive in Joshua.
It's shaking the promise.
Exactly. That's how the Gibeonites enter into the story. They're shooken by the idea they're shook. That's it. Yeah. I like to make up my own words some days, but they're shaken, or they're shook to their core about what Yahweh has already done for his people. And they say, we need to make allies with these guys. Otherwise, we can't stand against their God.
This needs to be our prayer. Do it for us, Lord. Turn the city upside down. Shake the city.
Yes.
What's the word that the Bible uses? That the city was turned upside down. What's the language?
They were overturned.
Overturned.
Yeah.
Overturn our city. And what it is, it's the fear of God that people are experiencing, and the interest in God. The oh my goodness, there really is something powerful, like this God of drink or drug or sex or status or money. It only gives me so much, but the power of God can turn the whole thing upside down.
Especially when we do it for his glory. Realize the reason why Joshua is asking this, it's not so that Israel can have this great victory and conquer these kings. It's so that God's name and his reputation is preserved, because they've made a covenant, which anytime you're making a covenant, you're bringing in your God or your deity as a background inside that world. And they're making a covenant with these people as God, with God's basically stamp of, I'm going to do do this. And God does do that. He keeps this promise with the Gibeonites, not just in that generation, but later on, Saul is going to slaughter a number of the Gibeonites, and God is going to have to intervene. And David, he's going to move David to have to serve as the judge and the justice, because God is still saying, I'm backing this call or this claim. And so Joshua is praying that so that the glory of God and the name of the Lord will be known and will be understood. And so when we ask God and we make these great prayers of God, do it for me, we're not asking God to do it for me so that we can benefit. Yes, sometimes we do benefit, but we're doing it for his glory. God, do this thing for me or through me so that others might know how real you are. God, deliver me from this financial situation, because when people understand my situation and they'll know that only in the supernatural was I able to be delivered. God, deliver me from this addiction, because only you can do that. And when people see the new me, they'll know that you are the one that did that, and they'll give you the glory of it, that it's not by my own might, not by my own strength, but because you intervened and you stepped in and you did it. And so may you have all the glory for it. God gets the glory for this win, because what does it say? It says that he, by the power of the hail and everything, is going to destroy the Gibeonites. He's going to kill more of them than the Israelites are going to, or not the Gibeonites, like those who come across the Gibeonites, but he is going to have the glory at the end of the day and show them that not only has he controlled nature here, but he's controlling nature here, and he's making his name known so that everybody inside the land, all the people connected with these 5 Amorite kings, will know that God is the protector, not just of his people, but of anybody who calls upon his name.
And who makes a covenant with him.
Yes.
And I think that's an important thing to point out. We've covered it, we've addressed it, but in a sense, we are the Gibeonites.
We are 100%.
Because we made a covenant with Christ, and Christ made a covenant with us. And in the Old Testament, tell me if I'm wrong here, essentially that's what the Israelites are representing in this story.
Yeah.
And it's like they're coming to protect us, coming to stand in the gap or be an advocate for us, just like Jesus is. He's our advocate, he's our lawyer, he's our defense. Yeah. Coming to stand in the gap for us. And we betrayed God. We tried to the Gibeonites tried to fool the Israelites, but the covenant was made in blood.
Yes. And God honors it.
So God honors it. My goodness.
Yeah. And the Gibeonites from that point on basically get grafted into Israel.
So yeah, exactly.
And which is our terminology in the New Testament that's used for the Gentile church, that we get grafted into Israel, that our promises come through Israel. And the Gibeonites are blessed through the covenant that God makes with Israel. And so is the church.
Which is why we are considered Zion.
Yes.
The people of God.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. And at the end of the day, God will do miracles on our behalf. Jesus will do miracles on our behalf.
Yes.
Because we're in covenant. Even though we don't deserve it.
No.
I want to finish the story here.
Yeah.
Verse 13. So the sun stood still and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. In this event, not recorded in the book of Yashar.
Yep. Usually Israel or Hebrew will drop the J. So you oftentimes hear it as Jasher, but Yashar would be the better way.
Okay. The sun stayed in the middle of the sky, and it did not set as on a normal day. There has never been a day like this one before or since when the Lord answered such a prayer. Surely the Lord fought for Israel that day. Did the time, continuum, did it all break that day?
It's funny because you have ancient sources that speak of times of like a time of prolonged darkness. Now, it can't really be dated, and it's not something that is necessarily verifiable. And they talk about maybe great eclipses in that nature. And so you have, at least in antiquity, somewhat of a tradition of, something happened at one point, that there's confusion that arises that shows up inside writings about it. And so, it does seem to have broken in some way or another that day, but God is the overseer of creation. It's his place to break it. It's his place to stop it. It's his place to not let the sun go about its normal rotation, which would be, or its normal, circumvention that we oftentimes see and we experience as the earth rotates. And so,
there's something I want to point out as we close. Jeremy and I are going to do some podcasts, talk about the relevancy of the Bible You can find all that on my Leadership in Tough Places podcast. And we're going to continue conversations about the Bible. But I want to, and you know, you can follow us there. It's on YouTube. But I want to bring out, as we close, this was recorded in the book of Yashar. Okay. There are other recordings of stories. Joshua may not be the author of Joshua necessarily.
Yeah.
But there are other verification pieces. I really want to close by encourage the people, okay, about the word of God being true.
Yeah.
And about this story being relevant today for their life, that God can do this for you too.
Absolutely. Yeah. He desires to do that for us. He desires to intervene in those aspects so that it strengthens our faith and that we are reminded that he is God, but also that others, above all else, will know that he is God and know that his power and his authority rests upon the people who call out on his name, because his desire is that all people would be those individuals, that all nations would call upon his name. And he says, I want you to know my power. I want you to understand. And I'm willing to do, even if it breaks the natural elements of creation, for you to know me.
God can break his own rules if he will. He's just not going to lie. The book of Yashar, there's other recorded, verify the Bible, verify this story as we close.
Yeah, it's many of them we don't necessarily have, but we see that there's tradition undoubtedly that exists inside ancient writings. And so it's near impossible sometimes to verify these things archaeologically. But the fact that the biblical author is saying that we're not the only ones that are talking about this, others are talking about this, go check there, go see what the Lord has done, is basically a ancient way of saying, hey, fact check receipts. Yes, exactly it. Now the receipts for everybody else have fallen and crumbled away, it's just the natural reality of that. But
yet the Bible stands and is found and is verified.
Absolutely.
Man, I love that. I love that. I love this conversation. We could just talk for hours and hours, but I think the point today is, man, Lord, do it for me.
Yeah.
Do for me what you did for Joshua, what you did for the Gibeonites. Do for me what you've done for our great leaders of the faith. Do miracles on my behalf for your glory, so that the world would fear you and know you. Come on, somebody.
Amen.
Can we thank Jeremy? And let's give the Lord some praise.